This is a demonstration of Tutorial 2 Sketching in CATIA. As well as sketching, this tutorial will give you a first look into what we call parametric design. Let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. First of all, we're going to access from the Start menu. We'll click on Mechanical Design, and then we select the Sketcher Workbench. So when we click on that, it gives us the possibility to name the part. We are going to use the naming convention. This is going to be PRT. We are creating another part, RH for my initials, tutorial 02 and V01. So in your case, you will have the same name. However, the difference will be these initials. You will use your own initials. Once you click, the software will open the 3D view to select the reference and to start creating the reference elements. Let's go ahead and get started with the creation of reference elements. Before we do that, it is important that we click Insert, Geometrical Set, so that we create reference elements in a geometrical set. We're going to call this reference elements, and let's go ahead and click at this point and maximize the design tree so that it is clearer in the video. Now, when I create something, reference element is what is underlined, and this is where you're going to have the elements that you create. If you want to create in part body, you have to right click and select Define in Work Object. And now it will create in the part body. The habit of creating reference elements and deciding to put them into this feature is very, very important, especially when you want to use these reference elements at different locations. Now let's go ahead, and there is the tab which is the reference elements toolbox. We're going to move the different toolbars until we get to this toolbar that has a point, a line, and a plane. And if you press Shift and then drag it up, it will go ahead and put it for you in a horizontal fashion, and you will be capable of seeing the creation of a reference element. So at this stage, what we want to do is to right click in here and define and work object if we're creating things in here, or right click in here and select define work and object in part body. To maintain the simplicity of this tutorial, we're going to create everything under part body at this stage. First of all, we're going to create the origin point. So click OK, and that gives me the origin point. It is very important to name things the right way. So you can right click and you can go to properties, and within properties you click on feature properties and change the name, or the easy way, you click on it and then you press Alt Enter. By pressing Alt Enter, it opens the features property for you. You can select origin. Sometimes you want to change the graphic and you want to make the symbol like a square, and you want to decide for some reason to have it in a certain color, and that is totally fine. And like this, you have your origin. Now, if you intended to have the origin in reference elements and you created it in part body, you can actually try to click, you can take the element from part body and try to like cut, paste, or you can try to different elements. So this is an example if we wanted it to be under reference elements. So looking into the tutorial, we are asked to create the x-axis and the y-axis as well as this origin point. So let's go ahead and create the x-axis. So of course, these are geometrical sets. These are expected to be in a geometrical set, and we have, this is what we created as our reference elements. I am going to select the line, and you're going to have the option of point point. You can click in here, point direction, and so on. We're going to click on point direction. We're going to select the point as the origin element, and then we're going to select the direction as the X component. This is for the X axis. The dimension that is given to us is 20 millimeters. So we are going to stick with 20 millimeters, but you can actually pick this end and drag it as much as you want, as much as it's needed. We're going to maintain this as 20 millimeters. Click preview and OK. And we are going to repeat the same. Select the point, and we're going to select the Y component and maintain it at 20 millimeters. I'm going to press on line 1 and go to feature properties and select this as X axis. And we're going to come here to the lines and select bluish color for my X axis. The same thing in here. We're going to select a greenish color, and we're going to call it Y axis. So it's very important that you develop the habit of saving the part. In my case, I'm going to save it under, this is the E machine, so I'm just going to save it on the desktop, but we will be talking about the product structure at a later time. So now this is where we are. This is something that's important, where you can come and select, define the working object by selecting here in the elements. So let's say you want reference elements to be the working object, you can select it, or if you want the part body to be. We can go ahead and hide the planes unless you think it's needed, and we can move on and create a sketch plane and place it in the XY element. So let's go ahead and select the sketch icon and select it in the XY plane. And this opens for us a toolbar with the different sketch elements. During the first tutorial, you've discovered some of these features. Mostly the most important one are the geometrical and dimensional constraints that we can define in here. This is the icon that you need to exit a certain sketch. This is the icon for selection option. And as you can see, there is a little black triangle. You can click on this and you can have other options based on what is needed. In here we have different elements such as fixed constraint, animate constraints, and edit multi-constraint. On the drawing, we have the first elements, which are the profile. So in case this happens to you because you're scrolling between two screens, you can simply press on this little XY in here. It will deactivate the design space and activate the design tree, and you can press the yellow and it would fit it back again. Now make sure you press the XY plane to deactivate the design space. We have in here profiles, squares, and as we're moving forward, you're gonna see some functionality where we can create a centered rectangle and so on. Then we have spline, ellipses, line, construction elements. This will be very handy when we're doing revolution parts and so on. These are some deformation tools such as filleting, chamfering, cutting, mirroring, projecting. And on the other side, we have the last two, the user selection filter. If you want to select only points and you highlight it in here, you will no longer be able to select anything like lines. You'll only be able to select points. So this can be very, very useful when you have a complicated design. Also, this is very important if you want to stick yourself to the grid. So if you want things to snap, let's say you're doing a line and it's gonna go from points on the grid, or if you remove it, you can go wherever you want in terms of locations. This is the other element. This is construction element. If you click on this one and you create something, it will be a construction element. The opposite, if you don't have construction element, it will be something that will appear in the sketch. So let's go ahead and get started with our tutorial. The first thing is we're going to click on the origin, create a circle, and then we're going to constrain the circle and add a dimension that is fixed to 150 millimeters. So we're going to select the circle. Instead of clicking in here, I'm going to go ahead and click on the origin. So you can select the origin from this location, and we go ahead and select the circle. Then you click on constraint, and here we have. And as you remember from tutorial 1, it's very important to verify this is ISO constraint. We're going to double click this dimension and we're going to put it at 150 millimeters. So in case you're having some issues with this, make sure that you go back and repeat the first tutorial and so on. The next thing is we are going to create a spline. We are clicking on the spline icon. This is the spline icon in here. And then we're going to select the control points for the spline. We are going to click on the point of -40, -20. If you cannot find it, -40, -20, you can always press tab, and this gives you the ability to actually change the values that you want. So -40, -20. Then we're going to click on the point 0, -40, and then I'm going to double click on the point 40, -20, and by double clicking on this point, this will end the spline. So now we have the spline. I'm going to move this a little bit. Okay, it's going to stay in our way. Here we go. Moving this a little bit so that we see the smile. So at this stage, we have created the spline icon, and we are asked to create another spline to continue it. So we're going to click on spline, selecting the point -40, -20, selecting the point 0, -30, and then I should have double clicked. If you don't double click, you can press escape, two times escape, and it will have the same effect as the double click. The next stage, we're going to have a corner from one side on the smile. So we're going to select the corner icon. This is the corner icon in here. And then we're going to select this one, and then we're going to select this one. And as you can see in here, we are creating this corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this location, and if we zoom in, we have made the smile from one-sided. So this is important, corners. Like today we are learning the sketching methodology, but corners are important to generate unsharp edges so that we can make healthy manufacturability, which means if you have sharp edges and people are moving the part, they might get this might harm their hands. So now we're going to chamfer. So we're going to click on the chamfer icon. So this is just to explore the chamfer icon. We're gonna click on the chamfer icon, and we're gonna do the same with both of them, and then we're going to decide where we want the chamfer to be. So we're going to go ahead and cut the smile from the other side at this location. Okay, now we have what we call a mechanic smile. So let's continue with with our face conversation of this smiley. We're going to click the circle icon and select the point minus 30, 30. So in case we're not on the grid, we can actually, so minus 30, 30. And we wanted a 10 millimeters radius. So I'm gonna click on tab. You can see where it's changing. And I'm gonna put 10 millimeters here. And then it would start, create it. Then we're gonna click on a rectangular icon. And then we are going to enter from minus 40, 50 and to minus 20, 45. So in case you cannot select it, the other point, because of the constraint, you can remove this one here to get it closer to it. So we wanted minus 20 and 45. So something that's almost similar to this. Now I'm gonna click on my tab. So we said minus 20, 45, and we are done with this. So this puts a little bit for us the eye and the eyebrows from one side, and then we have to create it from the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to select them, and to demonstrate the mirror functionality, we click on the mirror, and then we are going to select the y-axis. There's so many things in here, so I just zoomed in a little bit, and now we have the eye and that have been mirrored to the other side. So this is once again just to explore a little bit and show you some of the functionalities. Of course, you can do, there's plenty of ways we can do designs in them, and this is something that we will be learning as we are progressing throughout the course. Now at this stage, we are going to explore something that is a little bit unconventional, just to explore the parametric and the relationship and the equations between the different elements. So what we're going to do is first of all, we're going to select the offsets, the offset. So keep in mind there are these little buttons in here, and you can access other elements such as like translation, rotation, scale, and so on. We're going to click on the offset icon, and we're going to select on this circle, and we're going to move anywhere outside for another circle. So we got a outside circle, and in this case we had an automatic constraint that got created. We're just going to delete that constraint, but we're going to keep the concentric constraint. So in case you maximize this one, they will always be constrained to each other. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click in here and create a diameter for the outside circle. And this diameter, they are concentric circles, but what we're going to do is we're going to create an equation, and we're going to say that this circle is going to be equal to the other circle plus 10 millimeters in radiuses or 20 in diameter. So this is, you can double click, right click, and create in here add formula. You do not see it because for some reason they only like to put it for radiuses. So we're going to click edit formula, then we're going to select this dimension in here. So we're selecting the radius of the smaller one, and we're going to literally press plus 10 millimeters. So what this will do is it will take the calculation from this one and create them on this one. So in case you change the dimension in here, so your, let's go ahead, put radius, your radius is no longer 75, is let's say 100, it will automatically propagate the other one to 110. And this is the power of the way that we will be learning about design. is to make sure that we do things in a certain way that are parametric. So at this stage, we have created the formula. I am going to uh, demonstrate it. So what we did in here is once again, we selected edit formula and then we selected the other dimension and just added the way that we want to do it. You can do times 2, you can do plus 10, and so on. All right, so if in case you want to see all the formulas you have created, you can select in here this formula element and you can select in here and it shows you like radius 28. So this is for our circle, is gonna have a value of 85, but it's coming from the formula and it's a formula that we have created. Further down the road, we will demonstrate a little bit more the capacity of formulas and using Excel and so on. So now that we have the formula and then we have we're going to trim the circle. So we're going to click the line icon and we are going to create a line from minus 9030 to 9030. So I'm going to click on the line item, but this is not something that we want. So we're clicking here on the construction element and I'm going to snap on the bar again. And so from minus 9030 all the way to 9030. So we have created this line. Then after that, we're going to select the quick trim icon. So we can actually see in here the quick trim, this one, the quick trim icon. And there's so many ways that you can actually play around with this. And you know, I will let you explore it, but I'm clicking on the bottom one and it would do the quick trim and remove this surface from here. So at this stage, this is how our Sketcher interface looks like. And basically you can, like, I just wanted to demonstrate this functionality. Of course, you could have created a circle by clicking on this element arc and you would select in here and you would say, hey, let me remove the construction element. You would come select this point and come to this point. So if I want to demonstrate it, you can come select here and say, hey, this is how it looks like. So there are tons of ways to do things and we will be exploring them. Now the final thing that we have to do at this stage is just create some hair for the smiley. So we're going to click on the profile and we're going to start from this point and make sure to create. So it doesn't really matter if it looks like your it doesn't really matter as long as it is closed. So sometimes you make some mistakes where you don't really close the line appropriately, and we will discover that in a few seconds by looking into what's like if in case we created it right. The final thing that we want to do is, so as we set it, there are several options that you can click in here and see them. One of them is when you click on this one, you can see the capacity to create like a polygon and so on. So once again, look at the options that you have. So below the triangle, you have these different, this is an elongated hole, this is like a key profile, and so on. In here you have different ways to create a circle through 3 points, through tangents. This is for the spline or connectivity. This is ellipses, parabola, exponential, and different elements. This is for the lines. And if you want to create a line that is tangent, like bitangent or so on. So keep in mind you have all of these options. We're going to click on this one and create a little nose for this gentleman, and we're just gonna accept the nose to be like this. We're fine. This is just to demonstrate the different features. So Now that we're done with all of this, we can actually, let's say by mistake we left some points outside, we can click the point filter and select everything and make sure that they are all construction elements so that we don't have any issues. I mean, if we have issues, we will learn together how to save it. So now that we can exit and we can pad it unless we have done a mistake, which we will discover in a few seconds. So we have not done a mistake. So this is the face that we have created, and this is and in the tutorial you're told to right click and change some of the properties of the faces, making the hair a little bit, I don't know what color, and we can make the face some other color. And so on. So this is just to demonstrate that you can actually perform certain changes. And that's pretty much it. This is the end of the second tutorial. Before we let go of this tutorial, I am going to bring the tutorial to the side and talk about a concept that would be of interest. So what is this concept? This concept is, how does the CAD software decides where to extrude? What the CAD software does, it launches a ray, like a ray of light from somewhere far in the part to traverse the sketch. And there is no material at first until you hit the first closed contour. Then it says there is material. So in this location. Then when it exits, it hits another time the contour, then there is no material. Then there is material, and so on. This is how the CAD software decided to extrude where it extruded and not the other places. To demonstrate a little bit how this can be influenced, if right now I go ahead and create another circle, this is just for fun. If I go ahead and create another circle and I put the circle here and I'm gonna toggle this one, suddenly you're going to have a different thing, because suddenly you have material in here, then you don't have material, and so on. And this is how it goes. So let's say within the nose we put a circle. What's gonna happen now is you're gonna have, actually it does look like a nut now, so that's gonna be a funny nut nose. Alright, so you save your part, and this is the end of the demonstration. And now you are going to execute this tutorial. Thank you so much for listening to me.